Hey everyone, in this video we're going to explore how to get started with using STV and core data together. So now here I'm creating a new project using Xcode, and if you've correctly installed STV, you should find this new Sensible TableView category, which I'm going to select here. And here I have all my installed STV modules. Of course, I'm going to be selecting STV core data for this video. Say next. Just any name here, and make sure that use core data checkbox is checked. It should be checked by default, and you can select whichever language you wish, either Swift or Objective-C. Both are fully supported by STV. In this video I'm gonna stick to Objective-C. Just say next, and just the normal stuff, select a location and so on. So this is my new project. I'm gonna jump to the core data modeler here. There's Apple's default event entity, which I don't need in this video, so I'm just gonna delete that. Just pressing delete. I'm gonna create my own entity, and in this video I'm shooting to create our good old default tasks application. So let me just call this a task entity. Add some attributes here. So name, details, due date, priority, category, active, and let's start entering their types. And I'd like the name to be required. Now in my application, I'd like each task to have a set of task steps required for this task to be complete. So the way I'm going to implement this is I'm going to add a new entity, and I'll call that task step entity. And I'll now create a one-to-many relationship between the task entity and the task step entity. Let's call it steps. Make sure it's too many here, and select the destination as task step entity. I'll go to the task step entity, maybe just add a name and details too here. And the inverse relationship. And finally, just make sure that there is an inverse here as per Apple's recommendation. So now I'm almost done with, or I'm done with the model. And a very important step to do now is save this model, because as we're going to see, STV is going to make us access all the data that we've entered here in the model. So just a simple command as before going to the storyboard, you should save your model, and jumping here to the storyboard. As you can see, it's a very simple layout coming out of the template here. Simply a split view controller to a navigation controller, and the detail view controller of the split view controller is simply another detail view controller here. And this setup will not only allow you to run the application on both iPhones and iPads, but with devices with regular width view, like the new iPhone 6 Plus, you should actually be able to see the split view controller setup on these devices. So I'm going to start here by double clicking the master view controller to make sure it's selected here. And you'll see that the template adds what we call an SC array of objects section. And this section simply does what its name says. It displays an array of objects. And it provides a lot of functionality that we're going to see once we run the application. But as you can see now, it says that it has no data definition. And many STV elements require a data definition to be able to explain what data is bound to them and how does this data look like. So in this case, since we're working with core data, we need to add to our view controller what we call an entity definition. that explains each entity to STV. So I'm gonna scroll here, and I'll see some of STV's entity data definitions here, and I'm interested in the entity definition. So making sure that the view controller is selected, I'm gonna select the entity definition, drag it anywhere here, and here I have my entity definition. I'll select the entity from here. Since I want to display the tasks here, in the main screen, I'm going to select the task entity. Notice that since I saved my core data model, I can now access all that I've entered there from here. So I'm selecting the task entity, and STV automatically fetches all my attributes from the core data model. Of course, the order is the same as what the core data model has, which is just an alphabetical order. I can completely reorder these as I see fit. So I'd like the name first, then details, then maybe the due date, the category, maybe the priority. And notice that STV does its best to detect the type of control that's generated for each one of these. I can fully control that. For instance, the details, I'd like that to be a text view instead of a text field. So I simply select it and select a text view from here. And notice that I can edit all the properties, all the attributes of the text view from here, or any other control I select. And since if we select name, since in the model we've selected that name is required, this checkbox here is already checked for us. Now, if I jump to something like the category, I'd like this to be a selection. So basically in my app, I'm gonna go select whichever category I want. So I'm gonna go here and select selection. And let's say I have 3 categories. I'm gonna go one like work and other. And I usually like to auto dismiss my detailed views, so I'm just gonna select this here. The priority, maybe I'd like that as a selection, or a segmented, I'm sorry. So same as we did before here. So low, medium, and high. Let's say I'd like the active to be in its own separate section. So I'll simply go to the entity, add a new property group, and move the active to here. And let's say I just want this to have a header title of status. Now, finally, the steps. STV has detected this is an array of objects, but it also needs to know what entity are you talking about here. We need to create a data definition for the task step as exactly as we did for the task entity. So I'm gonna drag another one here. Select our task step entity. Again, the attributes are automatically generated, and I don't necessarily need the inverse relationship in this case, so I'm just gonna delete that. Maybe I'd like this as a text view again. And I'll select steps, and from the data definition, I'm gonna select the task step entity, which is the new entity I've selected. Finally, let me select the array of objects section, and from the data definition, since I'd like to display the tasks here, I'm gonna select the task entity. Of course, you can modify a lot of stuff. For instance, the steps here, instead of the title just called steps, maybe I'd like to call that completion steps. Everything here is fully editable. STV is gonna try as much as it could to guess sensible settings for all of these, all these are completely configurable. For instance, if there are no steps, I'd like to add a placeholder called no task steps, and I'll have it centered. So enough said. Let's just run this application and see what we've got here. So I'm gonna run. Okay, so it's saying no objects. I'm gonna add a new object. And if you're wondering where the new objects came from, it's simply another placeholder. So probably maybe I should say no tasks here. So going back, task A, and select a due date, and select the category. Here, notice that the priority is as per whatever I configured. Let's say that's a medium priority. The completion steps, let's add, notice no task steps. Step 1, step 2. Notice that STV have generated everything for us. So we now have the functionality to add the steps. We have the functionality to remove them. We have the same once we clicked on here. We have the functionality to again remove these tasks. All this is almost provided for us for free while just creating the entity definition that we've created. So this is basically an introduction to STV with core data. There are so much more stuff to dive in. For instance, we can start customizing everything here, right? Either in code or write an unphrase builder by selecting the array of objects section here and saying generate detail sections. And notice that everything is generated here. We actually have a video dedicated to how to customize this, but just going quickly over this, everything that you see here is actually live connected to your entity definition here. If I go to the category and change my mind that I don't want it to be a type selection, I'd like to be segmented control, just select it here, and as you see, it gets updated here. If I go to the due date and I want to experiment with how I'd like to display my date here, maybe I don't want to have the time, just say enter and it gets reflected here. Everything here is connected live to whatever you do here. And you can come here, of course, and just do whatever you want, change background colors, change auto layout constraints, just whatever you wish to do here. Again, as I said, there is a dedicated video to how to customize all the UI that's generated by STV right from the storyboard. One of the things that really amuses me here is up to this point, I didn't have to write any kind of code. Actually, if I inspect my master view controller, it's completely empty. So this is about it. That was a brief introduction of what STV does with core data, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.